Yes, your eyes are working perfectly. That is an Imperial Japanese submarine. And this is L'Orient, occupied France. Grand Admiral Eric Rader is on the pier, personally welcoming a crew from the Far East. What personnel or cargo could be so critical that it required the commander-in-chief of the Kriegsmarine to show up in person? And why would Japan risk a vessel worth 4 tons of solid gold just to appear here? As we audited in Episode 1, Germany abandoned its trade with China. Instead, in 1940, it signed the Tripartite Pact with Japan and Italy. The plan: create a strategic corridor to exchange raw materials and technical experts to fuel the Axis war machine. But the geography was a dead end. The Soviets blocked the land. The Allies controlled the surface. To survive, the Japanese Navy devised a desperate solution, using deep-sea submarines as cargo haulers. They called it the Yanagi Missions. Yanagi, the willow, a tree that bends in the storm but does not break. This is the story of the deep-sea handshake. Welcome back to the War Ledger. April 22nd, 1942. The Japanese Combined Fleet issues a top-secret mandate. Commander Shinobu Endo is to detach Submarine 130 and execute a covert voyage to Nazi-occupied France. The mission: deliver 1.5 tons of mica, 1 ton of shellac, and the advanced Type 91 aerial torpedo blueprints. The one-way journey was 15,000 nautical miles, with 0 resupply and 0 trace. The Japanese I-class cruiser submarine was built for the vast Pacific. At 109 meters long, armed with 6 torpedo tubes. Its design range was 14,000 miles, with an extreme limit of 16,000. Its submerged displacement was 3,700 tons, 4 times that of a standard 860-ton German U-boat. But this massive hull generated an acoustic signature of 130 decibels, compared to the 90-decibel German U-boats. It was essentially an underwater tractor. And now, it was a fully loaded, underwater tractor transport. Undetected by the Allies, relying on tactical secrecy, caution, and silent running. 105 days later, an exhausted I-30 successfully reached L'Orient. It unloaded and excitedly packed its hull with German tech. 1 complete Würzburg radar, 5-pack 38 anti-tank guns, 30 crates of Zeiss optics, industrial diamonds worth 300 kilograms of solid gold, and 50 Enigma machines. Then, it began its return. But was it historical inevitability, or the doomed fate of the Axis? After 53 days of silent running, just 7 days away from its home base, I-30 struck a British mine in the Malacca Strait. It sank to the bottom. All the vital technology was lost. Despite the tragic loss of the maiden voyage, an undaunted combined fleet dispatched the highly experienced Commander Shinji Uchino with submarine I-8 to strike again. Its payload: 10 tons of tin, 160 tons of rubber, and 2 tons of quinine, along with advanced Type 95 torpedo blueprints. Braving violent storms and running silent in the abyss, tracing I-30's wake, I-8 miraculously completed the round trip. It brought back 1 Daimler-Benz engine, 2 20mm anti-aircraft guns, the formula for penicillin, and 3 German radar engineers. This wild, deep-sea corridor actually seemed to work. Hitler highly approved of this underwater logistics channel. As a strategic reward, he gifted Japan a brand new U-boat, U-12-24. Immediately, Germany launched Operation Monsoon Group A. Over 40 ocean-going U-boats sailed the reverse route to Penang, Malaysia, trading military tech for desperately needed tungsten, tin, and rubber. the crushing depths of the oceans had seemingly become an absolutely safe logistics artery for the Axis. In the Indian Ocean, Germany's monsoon Group A sometimes lurked in the shadows to attack merchant ships, and sometimes gathered as transport vessels fully loaded with cargo. But this safe logistics artery was seemingly just a vain illusion. By late 1942, British codebreakers essentially cracked the German naval enigma. Simultaneously, U.S. naval intelligence broke the Japanese JN-25 cipher system. The dark abyss was no longer pitch black. The exact coordinates and rendezvous times of the Yanagi Missions were now completely transparent to the Allies. With the British deploying anti-submarine aircraft equipped with cinemetric radar at air bases in Madagascar and Ceylon, they immediately took off. Coordinating with anti-submarine destroyers, they launched an endless, frantic hunt for U-boats along the Yanagi routes. Over 30 U-boats were left to rest forever in the mud of the Indian Ocean. By March 1944, the Axis was showing obvious signs of decline. A hopeful Japan dispatched the I-52, attempting a final, desperate struggle. It was loaded with 2 tons of solid gold, 2 tons of opium, and 228 tons of strategic metals. Germany's trade targets: uranium oxide for atomic research, and blueprints for the Me-262 jet fighter. June 23rd, 15 degrees 16 minutes north, 39 degrees 55 minutes west, mid-Atlantic. Under the cover of darkness, the German U-530 successfully met with the I-52 as planned. Suddenly, U.S. warplanes appeared and rapidly dropped several torpedoes. These were no ordinary torpedoes, but the latest high-tech weapon of the time, the Mark 24 phytoacoustic homing torpedo, a submarine killer capable of locating targets by sound. U-530 crash dived and ultimately managed to escape by relying on its low noise profile of 90 decibels. But what about the I-52? Just as we audited earlier, its massive size and deafening noise of 130 decibels made it a perfect target for the acoustic homing torpedoes. And it took a direct hit. The gold, the opium, and 109 crewmen sank forever into the Atlantic seabed, 5,240 meters deep. This was no coincidence. The USS Bogue escort carrier and its anti-submarine aircraft had been waiting there for a long time, operating with a god's eye view, weaving a massive net of death for the German and Japanese submarines. The specialized hunter-killer task forces deployed by the U.S. Navy in the Atlantic had completely severed this logistics artery. Finally, let us thoroughly audit the ultimate ledger of this deep-sea trade. Look at the receipts. From 1942 to mid-1944, through I-8 and a handful of surviving U-boats, Germany acquired a total of about 1,500 tons of strategic materials from the Far East. Japan, on the other hand, received merely 1 engine, a few anti-aircraft guns, and some blueprints. But what was the cost? Germany's Monsoon Group A operations lost 34 ocean-going U-boats, up to 83% of their entire Far East fleet, valued at about 51 tons of gold. Japan lost 4 massive I-class submarines, valued at about 16 tons of gold. But the submarine cost is only a small fraction of this bill. We must add the value of the cargo lost in transit, the 2 tons of gold and 2 tons of opium on I-52, the 50 Enigma machines and radars on I-30, and thousands of tons of tungsten, tin, and rubber sitting at the bottom of the ocean. Conservatively estimated, this sunken cargo is worth no less than 13 tons of gold. Submarines plus cargo. To successfully deliver this mere 1,500 tons of materials, the Axis sank a staggering 80 tons of gold and shipping costs into the ocean floor. And this is merely the material cost. It does not even include the more than 2,400 elite German and Japanese sailors who perished in the sea. This means, for every single ton of materials delivered, the Axis had to pay 53 kilograms of gold and one young, living soul. This is the true price of the safe route. When an empire loses control of the surface, its concepts in the deep sea can be considered highly imaginative. But as Alfred Thayer Mahan asserted in his seminal work, command of the sea is the possession of that overbearing power on the sea which drives the enemy's flag from it, or allows it to appear only as a fugitive. Having lost the surface highways, the Axis attempt to sustain the logistics lifeline of two massive empires with a few fugitive submarines was destined to be an absurdly futile endeavor. They certainly never anticipated that the cost of this deep-sea handshake would be so astronomical. The bottomless abyss mercilessly swallowed the gold, the blueprints, imperial ambitions, and young lives. In the ledger of war, every entry is a cost.